we're still in the price discovery mode. I truly believe that. What the true price of silver is in US dollars, Canadian dollars, I do not know. I think it's north of 100 in US dollar terms, but it could be much higher than that. The market knows more than all of us, but the way the market is acting and reacting to these sharp sell-offs is unlike anything we've seen in the past. We are in the acceleration phase of the cycle. I would argue anyone that we're not. I mean, you look at one of the more prominent analysts in our sector now that does the momentum analysis. He's phenomenal, and he talks about the acceleration phase and a repricing of silver, and he's absolutely correct. And I do think that we could get to 100 or maybe 200 or maybe more. I don't know. The market knows more than any of us. But Michael Oliver really lays it out succinctly and, just a very good student of the markets. And Michael Oliver just goes through why you could see this acceleration that no one expects. So that's it. That doesn't negate my overall thesis, meaning that if we have a 25-year bull market and we're in the last 10% of the time, that's about 2.5 years. And you want to count the gold breakout at 2000, and I don't have the chart in front of me. Maybe that's the start of it. Maybe we only have a couple years from there. Now, people argue fundamentally, well, David, you're out of your mind. I mean, anyone, the student of silver that you are, should know we've got, at least 10 years to go because of the deficit that won't be solved probably for 10 more years unless there's a huge technological breakthrough of some type where, there's a meteorite, pure silver, that's as big as Africa that lands or something. Sorry for my sick humor. But I agree with that analysis based on the status quo. But one of my main themes isn't just, the precious metals. My underlying theme of the Morgan Report is money, mining, and markets. And the money equation is, what are we doing with the money, which is a falsehood. Everyone knows it at this point, at least anyone that tunes into INN. And they're going to realize we are looking toward a new system. And the new system exists. It's existed in China for quite some time. And believe it or not, it works quite well. So I do believe that's where we're headed. So because of that strong conjecture on my part and others, I think this market does only have a few years left.
David Morgan says silver has entered a historic price discovery phase, where physical shortages are overpowering paper markets. He believes silver's true value is above $100, with governments, manufacturers, and China racing to secure supply. Despite prices near $80, silver stocks remain deeply undervalued, setting up a major repricing. Thanks for watching. Give a thumbs up and subscribe to Fine Metals for the latest insights.
The silver strategic stockpile, when we went to the Silver Eagle program, was 139 million ounces. Based on the petroleum reserve, the strategic petroleum reserve, and looking on a per capita basis, I would guesstimate that we're looking at least 100 million ounces of silver needed for the strategic stockpile. Maybe the 140, maybe 200. I thought the government of the United States probably does not have a number right now, but let's just use that 100 million talking purposes. In that case, the average retail purchase of silver on a physical trajectory is about 200 million ounces a year. So if you added 100 million in 1 year, which I think is reasonable, could be 2, could be 5, I don't know, could be 3 months, I don't know. But if it was 100 for the year, you're adding about 33% additional physical requirement on top of what's already an average offtake, which of course we're above average in offtake now. Not only North America wise, I'd have to look at the numbers. We don't have them yet, but I suspect here forward 2026 onward, I think there are going to be a lot of retail comes back into the market at 70 and 75, believe it or not, because where else are you going to go as the empire starts to crumble more and more? And what just took place in Venezuela is an absolute verification of the two books called Resource Wars. I wrote an open letter to Elon Musk a few years back about the silver situation and why he might want to consider, buying physical silver and or a mining company. as far as Samsung is concerned, I kind of laugh in a way, and it's not funny, but one of our key picks in our more speculative side of the Morgan report was Avino Gold and Silver. And I've known David Wolfen for years. In fact, I knew David Wolfen's dad. And anyway, the point is that Avino had an offtake agreement with Samsung. It's probably at least a decade old, Charlotte. So one of the few, and it's in their reports. And David and I would talk about it from time to time. That was a forward-looking electronics firm that understood the significance of silver and securing a direct supply early on. So this one that we're talking about is one that's just, as far as I know, a secondary source that they have added to it. And lastly, on top of that, I've not been there and witnessed it, but these sources are so solid that I am convinced that there are some Chinese that are looking in Peru to secure silver either in doré or concentrate form before it's put on the free market, we'll say. So I think there is more to that than a rumor. Samsung is provable. The going to the silver belt from Chile all the way through Mexico is verifiable. And I think you're going to see it continue because once a large entity, such as, we'll just throw Tesla out there, everybody knows that, and says, I need to secure a good solid silver supply, I'm going to buy a silver mine rather than go through the exchange or refiner. Once that takes place, you'll see, I think, more of it take place. Well, the silver equities can really be or used to be the Bitcoin of, the early days when I was in my youth, in my early 20s or whatever. I mean, a penny mining stock could go from 12 cents to $1.20, some even well beyond that. 10 baggers are pretty common in the penny stock world, and 100 baggers weren't unheard of. But where we sit right now is they're undervalued. The mining shares on aggregate, like the XEU and HUI, have outperformed the metal itself, but not by much. I think the silver, the HUI and the XEU are actually about par with the metal itself. But going forward, the best value right now, if you're new, would be to buy the equities. I would still stress the top tier companies and then mid tiers and then maybe junior producers. But there will come a time where the exploration companies do far better than the majors. But you got to be careful how you do it. It's a timing thing more than anything else. And we're not there yet, in my view. If you want to think long term, you can sift through the juniors. We put about 3 on the new report that just got published yesterday or day before. I'm a little winded from every time we finish a report and post it up for our members. But we have some ideas for silver, mining shares. But that is the place to catch up. I think you're going to see these stocks get overvalued at some point. They're undervalued right now. They're trading in the majors as if silver is like $35, $40 the ounce when we know it's like pushing toward 80. So the earnings have not been believed by the market or hit the bottom line. I mean, a lot of these silver companies are looking on last quarter's earnings and what they're going to report in their, 10Ks and their financials are going to be different than the current price. But then when another quarter goes by and perhaps the average price for silver is 75 and that number hits the earnings reporting, then a lot of Wall Street's going to say, oh, my, what a value stock these silver companies are. They're really undervalued. Maybe we better buy some. So we're going to see, I think, a lot of money come in out of whatever sector, perhaps AI, I don't know. The physical reality will take over the paper paradigm. And once you have a physical need for the metal that cannot be saved or with contract, paper, silver, or cash settlement, then you will see a new market. And that has taken hold a few times along the last 20 years, but it's been very short in duration. It happened in the retail side a few times where retail product was extremely difficult to find and it was bid up because of, the price mechanism to supply and demand. But it really hadn't happened on what I call the silver market, commercial bar market, the market that all the derivatives are based upon. And that now has taken place. And it continues as we speak. And that's why in my later updates, I've stated that we're still in the price discovery mode. I truly believe that. What the true price of silver is in US dollars, Canadian dollars, I do not know. I think it's north of 100 in US dollar terms, but it could be much higher than that. The market knows more than all of us, but the way the market is acting and reacting to these sharp sell-offs is unlike anything we've seen in the past, other than a very brief window of time from like the last day of December 1979 through the middle of January 21st, 1980. In that time frame, we saw the kind of moves we're seeing now. I think the biggest mistake made over the last decade or more was that the United States basically froze the assets of the U.S. or of Russia during this sanctioning. I really believe that was the shot across the bow, as the expression goes, that woke up a bunch of other countries and said, we can't trust the United States. What if they don't like our politics? What if they take our money from us? And that's really when you started to see the gold purchasing increase for safety from the central banking community globally. And I think that trend will continue. I think that trend will just absolutely continue. And I just want to get that on the record because I think the big picture is always one of the best, one of the foundational reasons to think or rethink what your portfolio position may be, because people think, well, it's too late to buy gold. It's 4,400. But if you think longer term, as far as not price so much, but value, what's the value of not losing much of my portfolio now if gold is that counterweight on the seesaw, that if something goes wrong geopolitically, at least gold will counterbalance it.